Congratulations on getting your job or internship interview. Regardless if this is your first internship interview ever or your 15th interview this month, because companies are competing for you in your background, this is a very sizable accomplishment. For most of us, interviews do not come super frequently, so it is probably a good idea to make them count. Luckily for you, as someone who has gone through internships and interviews for over 6 years, I have witnessed a lot of successes and failures in regards to the interviewing process, and here are the 5 tips and tricks that I've found to be the most effective. Let's get to it. So before I start talking about the strategies, there is one comment I would like to make. So on my title, I know I mentioned 99% success rate. By that, I mean the content of this video has a 99% chance of helping you increase your chances of impressing the recruiter during the interview. I am not saying that you'll have a 99% chance of getting the job just because you followed my advice. I'm sorry, but the harsh reality of the real world is that you could sometimes be the most qualified candidate the company has ever seen, and the recruiter could find a reason not to hire you. So unfortunately, there is no interview strategy that can guarantee that particular job for you, except maybe bribery, I guess. I'm just kidding, that was a joke. Please don't try this, that is illegal. So with that common sense out of the way, let's get started. Tip number 1, compliment your recruiter the second you meet them. If this is an in-person interview, say something nice about your recruiter's outfit. If this is a virtual interview where you cannot see your recruiter's outfit, say something nice about your recruiter's hair, or say something nice about your recruiter's office or background. Just say something kind, even if you don't really mean it. This not only shows your recruiter that you're both calm and open, but it also shows your recruiter that you're very respectful and likable as well. Tip number 2, avoid filler words like like, or you know, just try to avoid them. We typically use these filler words to buy ourselves more time to gather our thoughts together, and I know it can be pretty challenging sometimes because we are human and sometimes coming up with impromptu responses can be challenging. Now, if you do use a filler word here and there, it's probably not a big deal. In fact, I'm sure your recruiter will also be using filler words every once in a while. However, if you're using a filler word in every one of your sentences, your recruiter may start to have the impression that you're feeling uncomfortable and a little bit nervous. So if you do need some time to think about a good response to a question your recruiter asks, you can always start by saying, "That is a great question. That will buy you about a second of additional time to think." If that's not enough, you can also ask your recruiter to repeat the question as well. There are many other ways to buy yourself extra time to think of a response, so you don't have to say something without thinking and get stuck in your thoughts in the middle of a sentence and have to use a bunch of filler words to cover that up. My next tip will help you out with reducing filler words as well. Tip number 3. Have a list of common interview questions or questions that you think your recruiter might ask. I'll definitely make a video in the future where I talk about the 10 most common interview questions and how to answer them. If by the time you're watching this video, that video is already out, I'll definitely include that in the link in the description, so definitely feel free to check that out. But here are the questions I recommend having the answers to in a document that you can use for virtual interviews, so you'll know exactly what to say when a recruiter asks you that question. Another thing I'd like to recommend is to just do your research on the company. I mean, at least be aware of the company's responsibilities and what the company you're interviewing for is known for. Otherwise, how would you even know this role is for you? If you're interviewing just for a paycheck or something to write on your resume and nothing else, there is a very good chance just from talking to you that your recruiter will notice and you just wasted yours and your recruiter's time. So please don't do that. I also recommend taking notes on your research. That way you'll have more to talk about during the interview. And trust me, the more you know about the company, the more you have to talk about, the better off you are. And I'm telling you right now, the recruiter will definitely take note on this because it tells the recruiter that you're both passionate and dedicated to the company. Tip number 4, talk about your practical skills. When you talk about yourself in an interview, it may be tempting to talk about how intelligent you are or talk about all your past experiences and all the cool things you've done in the past and all of the skills you've picked up from your previous experiences. But the truth is, the recruiters are also looking for people with practical skills. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty hard for them to decide whether or not you're a good fit for the team. So when you're preparing for your interview, have a couple practical skills that you're prepared to talk about. Some examples include how you work with people, your energy, your curiosity, your willingness to learn, how quickly you learn, and how you would handle specific situations. Because here's a harsh reality I know you don't want to hear. Every technical skill you have on your resume, despite how impressive it is to master, can usually be taught through the power of the internet. But if you spend time talking about practical skills that cannot really be taught, you just gave yourself a huge advantage among the competition. Because here's the truth about working a job. Employers want to select people who are ambitious, passionate, and easy to work with, not people who are just intelligent. So keep this in mind for your next interview, especially if this interview is for a job that you feel like you don't have all of the qualifications for. It will give you a huge advantage. Tip number 5. Ask questions. This does not just mean ask questions at the end of the interview when the recruiter asks, "Do you have any questions for me?" And of course the answer should be yes. You should certainly ask questions at the end of the interview to show the recruiter that you're curious, but feel free to ask questions whenever you feel fit. If you need any sort of clarification for an interview question, feel free to ask for clarification. If there's something interesting that your recruiter mentioned that you want more information on, please ask. This tells the recruiter that you're an active listener, which is a very, very valuable practical skill that unfortunately a lot of people who might be more qualified than you for this job probably won't have. So at the end of the interview, most of the time, your recruiter will ask you, "Do you have any questions?" And if you have any questions specifically related to the job, feel free to ask. Just make sure you don't ask about the salary. If you don't have any questions in mind, here are 3 questions I recommend asking. The first question is, how could I exceed expectations for this role? The second question is, how is your experience working with this company? The third question you can ask is, where did you start out in this company? I definitely recommend asking at least one of those questions, if not all 3, and feel free to make a couple of follow-up comments as well. It's like a day-to-day conversation at this point. And also, when you're done with the questions, thank the recruiter for his or her time. This will improve your last impression with the recruiter. So those are the 5 tips that I have learned throughout my experience with interviews. Let me know if you have any other great tips in the comments below, and I may just make a follow-up video. Good luck with your interviews, keep doing what you love, and I'll see you guys next time.